Happy Merry Monday, everybody. I am so elated that you're here to share with us on today. You have tuned in to Real Talk with Mary Jae. Real Talk with Mary Jae is a social network for a positive outcome. And we're so excited that you stopped by, that you were scrolling down your screen and you saw us and you stopped by to share with us. But listen, I am even more elated and ecstatic because I have a very esteemed guest. He is a man of honor, a man of valor. He is the pastor teacher of Destiny Christian Center International of Fayetteville, Georgia. And I want to welcome him on the show with me on today. Welcome on the show this morning, Bishop Allen. How are you, sir?
God bless you. Good to be here. I'm doing well. All is well.
Oh my God. I am so just blessed and honored, sir, to have you to share with me on my show. You came back some time ago and we talked about the broken man, and oh my gosh, that you broke that thing down, and you just had so much value to add to the show. And listen, I am even more delighted to have you today because you know what we're talking about on today.
And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too. But Bishop, I went back through just my notes, and I discovered something that really touched my heart and it blessed me even more. And I'll let you know why I'm even more excited to have you to share my book, Intrigue, your own personal review of the book. I went back through my notes, Bishop, and what I found was a note from you. I don't know if you remember it. You probably don't. You reached out to me in November of 2015, and you said, I feel led to tell you to write the book. Do you remember that?
Kind of, sort of.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to show you that message later. You said, I feel led to tell you to write the book. And I was just thinking God had put the book on my heart many years ago. I started writing it. I stopped, went through some challenges and a devastated divorce. So I kind of laid the book aside. So God had begun to talk to me about the book again. And I went to my messages to contact you to be a part of my show. And when I woke up that morning to contact you, there was a message from you in 2015 of November saying, I feel led to tell you to write the book.
Oh, wow.
And it blew me away. It blew me away so much, Bishop, until I didn't know if you were really talking directly to me or if that was just a general message. And I was like, hey, was this for me? You said, yes, you, Mary Jae. And so,
wow.
As I wrote this book and just began to put the components in place and to share with the audience, and I had so many guests coming on the show to talk about the book, and then God brought me back to you because I knew that you can deal with these strong subjects. I have some real hot topics in there.
Oh yeah, and they're very intriguing.
Thank you. Yes. And so, the book is to lure the curiosity, and it's to shift the paradigm so you can live a positive, life-changing results. And I'm intrigued, Bishop, that God will pour something like that, download that type of content in me to write with these play on words, And I tested it out with my children because, our children are our best critics. They would tell us if they're embarrassed or something. So I tested out, with my son first, and I started telling him the chapters, and he just sat there. He was like, okay, Mom, innuendos, right. And but he understood. So I said, well, what do you think about sex toys? I wrote about sex toys. He was like, Mom, knowing you, I already know. All right. So that did my heart good. So we want to talk about it on today. But before we get into that much discussion of my book, there's so many layers to you, sir. You've done so much. You're bishop. I already had known that you were walking in that office for a very long time. I think when you were on my show the last time, you were going to be consecrated. Now you've been consecrated and you are also married. So congratulations on two blessings that you have. So tell the people who you are and what you do. Not that you need any introduction, because you do so much from the last time you were on my show. So let's go over that portion of yourself again.
Well, thankful to God that I moved here 16 years ago, started from the ground floor with ministry to Fayetteville, Georgia. If I would have chosen the place to be, this would not have been the place. God led me here. And I know it is God's leading, just like your book, because it took off when I moved here. And I thank God for the addition. Our church has been through some rocky moments. I too went through divorce and some other trying situations, but because God planted me here, you know, when the tree is planted where God wants it to be,
that's right.
He's going to make sure that tree may bend, but it won't break. And we sprouted back up and began to start ministry again and watch God flourish this church and the ministry of movement on to other churches in other parts of the country. And we are thankful to God that I did get married 2.5 years ago, met a wonderful woman of God.
Beautiful.
And she's added so much, everything to my life. And actually, I'm getting her to read this book as well. She saw me reading some of it one day and saw the chapter on sex toys. And she asked me, was I ordering something? And of course, I got consecrated as bishop. And my greatest achievement, I'll say this, the church ministry, preaching everywhere and being connected to great people is wonderful. But my greatest accomplishment, and I will always attribute this to my success, is my children. I'm grateful that I raised great children, and I see God in them. They'll turn out to be some wonderful people of God, and I'm watching God have a plan for their lives as well. So I don't like getting into all those little achievements and awards stuff. This is a simple guy God chose to use and anoint and give a little wisdom to.
Well, Bishop, you know, because of your humility, and I believe that's why God is pouring so much into you. You know, I've watched you over the years, and you've always been such a man of valor, a man of honor, so highly esteemed, you know, a great father, you know, and I love the interaction and engagement that you have with your children. You're very dedicated, you know, a part of their lives. You're not an absent father, because we talked about the strong man episode before, right, also, you know, so God is just elevating you. And Bishop, I saw as I began to read your bio and all of the things that you've already accomplished, you were a pastor at 19 years old.
Well, I started preaching at 19. Actually, a month ago, I celebrated 40 years of preaching.
40 years. Oh, my goodness.
40 years of preaching. And then actually 35 years of pastor. I started pastoring when I was 25 years old, just barely 25. And so, which now, if you do the math, I'm 60 years old. So I just celebrated my 60th birthday. Huh?
You just had a birthday recently?
Right, October 13th. We celebrated 60 years of great living, and looking for 60 great more years.
60 great more. That's phenomenal, sir. It's totally phenomenal how God just shifted you and just continued to move you through all of even the obstacles that were in the way, and for you to take that leap of faith and to go out to Fayetteville, Georgia. The last time you were on my show, I couldn't even pronounce the name, Fayetteville, you know, but to be there, not to know anybody there, Bishop.
I knew one family here prior to coming here, a gentleman that I preached for back in the 80s, actually, 1987. Wow. He told me to come and just kind of sit here until I figure things out during Katrina. And the Lord told me when I got here, this is the spot. This is where he wanted to do his thing, this new thing in. And so I planted my stakes here and watched God just take it and move it. And I'm going to tell you this, I tried it because some people will hear God and disobey slightly, slight disobedience.
Right.
I'm in Georgia, but right down the street is College Park, where Dr. Creflo Dollar is. I figured I would start my ministry over there, and I couldn't pay anybody to come over there. And the Lord said, I didn't tell you to go to College Park. I told you to go to Fayetteville, Georgia. And once I got planted here, it took off like a rocket. So I'm grateful to God for giving me a slight moment. He allowed disobedience for
Right.
them to, but
Give us that grace that
yeah,
we need.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very good.
And so you started, when you started in Fayetteville, you started with only 4 members?
4. It was actually, when I say 4 members, me, my wife at the present time, 2 children.
Oh
So
my God.
the 4 of us, and for about a month or so, just maybe an addition of maybe 4 other people. So we're sitting in this building, 8 people. I'm used to sitting in a building that seats 550 in New
Right.
Orleans, and now I'm looking at 8 people on Sunday morning. It got a little discouraging at the moment, and I remember God promised to do something here. So it took about a month and a half, and then it just exploded.
Only a month and a half,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
Only a month and a half. And
yeah,
it's because of the fruit and all of that you were pouring out and giving to the people, because people are really hungry and thirsty. And
yeah.
if you go where God says go, he would definitely bring
That
them
is
and
a
draw
secret.
them.
He said he told Elijah to leave Cherith, and I have already prepared somebody at Zarephath for you.
That's right. That's right.
When you leave here and get there, provision is already made. So maybe that's a lesson someone can take today from just my little bio. Get there. That's the word today. Get there.
Get there.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Get there. Regardless of all the obstacles and everything that we're experiencing in life, just get there. Like you told me, just write the book, Mary
Just
Jae.
write
Just
the book.
write.
Write the book, Mary Jae. Eat the cake anime.
Exactly. Because I was like, wait, was this what was meant for me? And I knew it was meant for me because I had just finished talking to God about it. It was on my heart. And that was November of 2015. And just recently, as you were coming on the show, God reminded me of that. So I went back to my notes to see how long that's been. So now we're here. Have you been intrigued already, Bishop?
Well, yes, I have a copy of the book right here, and I want to order some more of them. And I tell you, I would first of all, I was thinking about this morning. You know, when people look at this book, especially written by a woman, you would think that this is geared and directed toward women only. But I want to say this is a full spectrum. Anybody can read this book and be intrigued and be prompted to think a little deeper than what's surfaced. And this book has really kind of made me look into some areas of my teaching, because we've been on this series of teaching for the last 3 months on B. And I want to tell you right now, if you haven't copyrighted some of the stuff, I will be using some of this information in this book, because it is so vital to being who God has called you to be.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I like the style of your writing, because when you said intrigued, I didn't know. And honestly, Mary Jae, I was a little shocked. Uh, the the cover of the book, the title of the book, and some of the topics. Because I like to go through a book and just read your chapter titles. Like, okay, what is this? What is
Right.
So when I read the chapter titles, oh my God, Mary Jae lost you, fell off the wagon. What
I
is it?
know it's kind of risky, right?
Right, right. So when you read it, and if you're not, well, it's intriguing because you want to see from your perspective what are you actually saying.
Yes,
But reading the book is deeper than just those chapter titles or even the title of the book. It intrigues you to look into it, and then you discover there's a hidden treasure within every chapter,
exactly.
nuggets of wisdom and a different perspective, I would like to say, because I was looking at uh, your first chapter, and man, it just blew me away. That's what kind of got me to just reading more and more, and then market your product.
Right.
And so when I'm looking at the title, Intrigue, and market your product, what are you saying, Mary Jae? And getting into it, you use the analogy of buying a house, selling a home, and how do you market that?
Right.
And you don't come out exactly and say, don't put all your goods online, but you're using an analogy metaphor of the house not showing all its assets, but it's a must see. And man, when I said that, when I saw that, it was like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get the whole concept of the book because it's thought provoking. I like that. It made me really think. Yeah. So congratulations. It's a great book.
Oh, thank you, sir. That means so much to me, Bishop. I really appreciate that. And I knew the book was risky. But I'm telling you, I was actually writing this book. I started writing this book while I was going through a divorce. I started writing this book while I was homeless, living in a hotel for 45 days. Because when I went through my divorce, I left the house and all the furniture, everything in it, and I only left with my clothes and my children and my Jeep. That was it. I took my little computer and my books. That was all that I had taken. So while I began to write this book, God just began to download all of this and all of these play on topics. And I was intrigued. I was blown away as I was writing it, and I was like, oh my God, all of the little innuendos and the play on words. It's to lure the people. It's to to get their attention. I had a man just the other day when I was shipping off some books to the post office. He saw the book and he asked me, was that me? And I was like, yes, that's me. And he looked at the cover and I said, you ought to get one. And he said, how much are they? And I said, they're only $20. He gave me the $20 and I went to give him the book. And I said, what's your name? I'm going to write your name in the book. And he said, no, write my wife's name in it. And I said, okay. So I've had a few men that have bought it and said it was for their wife, but I said, wait until they get their book. They have no idea. And he laughed and he said, I hope it's not don't tell me you're doing a Steve Harvey thing. It better not be all of these, like telling a woman what, but that's never been my ministry. Even through my divorce and the devastation and the brokenness, it's never been my ministry to bash men or to make women think that they don't need a man or men are dogs. Or that's never been it. Even with marriages and my girlfriends, they used to get mad at me for the things that I used to tell them that they need to be doing. They think they coming to me for answers and I'm going to be on their side. And I'm like, no, that's out of order. You got to get in alignment. And so that's always been how I functioned. And so I knew that this book would, market your product, as you said,
Well, it's not gender limited. That's
exactly.
I keep saying that because, looking at the cover and of course, coming from a woman perspective, you would think it is a Steve Harvey or someone else who's just directing it toward a particular gender. But I will say that this has nothing to do with gender. It's for anybody who reads it, it will help. And let me add this, you said this book came out at a time of crisis.
Yes.
Man, I want to tell you, some of the best sermons I've ever preached was when I was going through my worst storms. God gave me revelation because in that pain, I believe pain produces a power that you just would not ever notice in your life. Right. And you have discovered something through that pressing and that pain and being homeless. I mean, how many people have that testimony? And here you are writing a book in the midst of all of that. But all crisis ever does, according to Dr. Miles Monroe, is really there's no really definition for it but opportunity. So crisis,
that's good.
That's what crisis always produces, is an opportunity. So we thank God that we don't need you to go through any more crisis now. The next time you hear the word write the book, may God put you through a crisis. Just write the book.
Just write it, right. Yeah. So that, and even during that process, my book actually got stolen. My iPad was in my car and I valet parked at a restaurant. And I normally don't leave my iPad in the car. I usually take it with me. But I was going to eat with my daughter and I needed to spend some quality time with her. And she said, Mom, do you have to take your iPad here everywhere you go? And I was like, okay, I'll leave it in the car. So unfortunately, that's the time that when I got back to my car, got home, went downstairs to the garage to get my iPad out. It was gone. And so I lost so many chapters in the book that, so that's what had me kind of stuck. I was so disappointed, Bishop. I was like, God, how are you going to give me all of this back? I don't have it. I had it on a jump drive, but I didn't have all of it saved. And so I was really, really discouraged and didn't want to continue. But God began to do the work in me. And even some experiences that I've experienced after that, God used that to put it in the book. And then you came right there and confirmed, write the book.
Well, he can bring all things back to your remembrance, and that's a fact. I tell you, it's if I dare someone to read this, it's going to bless them. And I hope that it's intriguing enough, because sometimes people read that and they kind of get one-dimensional thinking, like, okay, this book got to be about one particular thing. And of course, that chapter on sex toys will make you think. It's just a list of toys that you need to use, but then you kind of redirect our thinking to something else, and really have nothing to do with the toys per se, but what can become a toy, and how we substitute things. I was getting ahead of the whole gambit of this, but man, that was so masterfully done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that nobody can do that but God. Put that kind of ingeniousness into writing. And I'm looking at this chapter: make your investment, manage your time. These are all tools for great living, successful living. So I'm going to read it again, because of course I need to preach some of this stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're, intrigued by it, because that's what I had designed the book to do. And when God started giving me that, Bishop, he wanted me to write the book where it would reach everybody, not just the church, not just the Christians, not just women, but men also. Not just the saved, but the unsaved also. Not just the homosexual, but the heterosexual also. And so that's why that book is so compelling, and I find sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll see somebody that might go through the table of contents, because I had that happen just recently. A young lady was looking through the table of contents of the book because someone else purchased it. And the first thing she said was, what is this about? How big is too big? I want to know what that's about, and I'm like, you got to get the book, and I'm thinking she has no idea. And God told me, he said, that's the type of effect that I wanted it to have. Exactly that.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, some people would get the wrong impression, but he said, that's exactly why I wanted you to write it that way, because it's not what they would think it is, and not just.
I like that. I like that chapter as well, because then when you ask that question, of course, I'm going to read your input on that. Okay, how big is too big, and then it has nothing to do with what we are naturally thinking,
right?
But it kind of provoke you to think about who fits your life, what size. I don't want to give away all, because people need to read this. I'm telling you.
But, it's okay if you do.
What size fits your life, and I think this is something that we all need to take an examination of. Of course, I'm in this whole series of teaching right now about self-awareness and knowing yourself and what goes on with your life. But it's important that people know what size fits you, what fits your life, what doesn't, what's too small, whatever. And I think this is what we all need to do. And I think you even brought in sizes and measurements of, like a man's neck size.
Yeah.
I happen to wear 18 and a half, 19 collar. Of course, it could either be a 20, which is too big, or a 17 and a half, the one you had in that thing, which would choke the life out of me. So you gotta get your size. You gotta get
your size, right?
Yeah, know your size. Yeah, but it does not particularly go along with what you're possibly thinking. So I like that. I'm trying to tell somebody to stop texting. It's my wife calling me. She forgot I'm on this call. Yeah. But anyway, Yeah, great book. Great book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Bishop, let's talk about pillow talk.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Pillow talk, going into pillow talk, understanding, I talk about the gauges that we set for the house, the gauges that you set in any atmosphere, going through the hustle and bustle of life, dealing with everything. We deal with ministry, with family, with the finances. We also have to deal with building us up and keeping our faith level high, regardless of all of the stuff that we're going through. And I've always added that even when I was married. I have a big issue about going to bed with things unsettled. I never liked it. Never. And I don't care who's right or who's wrong. I believe that it needs to be settled, even if it's not thoroughly discussed in depth. Just at least go to bed in peace, right? Go to bed in peace. I'm sorry, honey, whether you're right or wrong, because there's no win in this thing. It's togetherness. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Saying sorry doesn't make you any less than or any greater than. It just means that you're sorry about the situation. You're sorry that we've come to this point. And so pillow talk, as I begin to write the chapter on pillow talk, it brought me back when I was coming up as a little girl. My mom always kept the house immaculate, and there was a time that when my dad would come home, she always had his food prepared first, and I didn't like that. I was like, why you got to eat first? All of us here, we're waiting. She would have his dinner prepared and have it either sitting on the stove covered or, in the microwave or what have you, for when he came in, then he would eat too. And I remember when my mom would, if she was on the phone with her girlfriends or her sister or whomever, she would hear my dad coming in and she would say, okay, I'll talk to you later. I'll get back with you. And so those little things that I just saw, I watched my grandmother do these things, all of these beautiful women that added treasure to my life coming up. My grandmother, my great aunt, who I'm named after. And I just began to pattern that. I was married very young at 16 years old, was my first marriage because I was pregnant, but I didn't know anything about how to be a wife, but I knew what I saw, so I began to pattern those things. I began to do those things, serve my husband on a platter, on a tray, all of that. I don't like to say all of that because I don't, you never know what season you're going to be in.
Right.
I don't want anybody comparing, oh, you was doing this and this and that. You understand? But those are the things when I begin to write pillow talk, I begin to think about the gauges, setting the temperature, making sure that there's the right time, to confront, to discuss, to deal with the pressures of life, to deal with what you didn't like or what happened that you really felt uncomfortable with. And so that's how I engage in the topic of pillow talk, while you're laying your head on that bed and dealing with all of those things.
Well, it's the place where intimacy exists.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be an intimate moment as well when you're discussing something that possibly that's disrupting the relationship. So we're having a problem. If you're having a problem, whatever it may be, we're in this place of intimacy. The pillow is a soft landing spot. And you're laying your head, which means I should be able to rest here. And I think it's ingenious the way you made all that come together as well. But making sure that nothing, first of all, nothing leaves that room.
Right.
That when we finish talking about this, it's over. We cancel all the offenses and the violations or infractions of the day. Whatever you may feel, be open and honest, and get it out the way. I just taught this last week in the marriage class. Getting that, not going to bed angry, and making sure you clear the record, and that should be done. If that timing piece is so important. And I don't know what chapter you said this in, but one chapter I put a note there because I'm thinking about it. Your timing is off.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I highlighted that piece, but I don't know what chapter it was in. But time. Well, you were talking about time to value your time, but when your timing is off, and I think that's a great time to just before you end the day to say, guess what? I'm in this place now. I'm not cooking and not cleaning. I'm not dealing with the all the troubles of the day.
Right.
Let's just sit here for a moment. And if there's something you need to unload, then you should be able to do that um, in a soft tone. And I use this in communication. I see that's a big part of your book as well. But there are three wonderful pieces of communication. And I think this goes along with the pillow talks: your tone, your timing, and your tactfulness.
Yeah.
And all that should, be done, and don't bring that stuff into the next day. So what you do with that is you build in an account when you do that. So I think all of those things, when you talk about pillow talk, because, we think about something else, all the foreplay and the stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
But that is a form of foreplay. It's just making sure that we're good.
That's right.
And I think that's important, because how many times you're doing something physically, but you're not connected mentally or emotionally? So I think we learn these things through experience. And by you being married younger and being around people of wisdom, that's a great, great attribute, to have something to pattern yourself behind and mimic, and share that experience and not be ashamed of it, and say, hey, I made mistakes in the past. And that transparency, Mary Jae, is just, people need to know that people that minister have been through something. And I appreciate that honesty and transparency.
Absolutely. Yeah. You said something, not allowing all of those things to go throughout the course of the day in the foreplay. I believe intimacy is seeing into me, and seeing into whoever my partner may be. And intimacy starts early in the morning to late at night. Intimacy can be as simple, and a lot of times when people think of intimacy, they're thinking about sex, but that's sex. That's
Right. That's not necessarily intimacy.
Exactly.
Right.
That's not intimacy. And so not allowing all of those things to unravel your day, right? And foreplay is all of that. Foreplay is talking, is dialogue, because this is the thing that, when, just as you said, when we don't have all of those issues resolved and those things are unsettled, we're not able to really move forward.
Right.
Men can move forward a lot more, than we can as women. It's like turning on a light switch, and then just turning it off. And it's like, wait, I'm not done with that light. I'm not done with that. Can you turn that back on for a minute? But a lot of times I see, especially with women, they deal with all of these issues. And a lot of times it gets us out of sync. And when you're intimate with your partner, you would think that it's you or it's them, but it's all of the stuff that you just stored up in your heart. It's all of that hardness. It's all of the stuff that you have in your mind that you have not even decluttered. And so that's why pillow talk was so important to me, to have that to be a portion of one of the chapters in the book, because a lot of times marriages are broken up because of that. They're broken up because of the stuff that, went on, and just kept ignoring it over and over and over.
Right. Right. And it's like a heart that arteries are coming to the heart. The heart is still beating, but it's clogged. It's not beating at its maximum potential. And that's what happens when you don't get these infractions and offenses out the way. You're still beating, but it's not at its maximum potential, and everything's not flowing like it really could, because you're keeping secrets and you're keeping stuff inside yourself. And I like the way you made it plain and clear, the difference between, in your book, you state this, that women look at intimacy a lot different than men do. And of course, Men, sex is intimacy.
Right.
We don't really see the romance piece, and we
Right.
don't like get all the flowery words. We don't care nothing about that. Let's just do what we do.
Right.
Women need a lot more, and I think men need to learn, what intimacy looks like from a woman's perspective. So I thank you for explaining that and bringing that back to the table, because sometimes we kind of forget. And what you don't want is to be half-heartedly there.
Exactly.
And that can happen if you don't have the right pillow talk. So I appreciate that chapter as well. It's a great, great chapter.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that chapter is key. A lot of times when people ask me the question, especially my ladies, the intimacy part and the relationship part, like why is that so important? I basically break it down from market your product to make the investment, to manage your time. And manage your time. Oh my gosh, Bishop, that's where I was in the midst of writing the book. That
See, time.
It shook me. While I was writing it, it shook me.
I'm trying to think the categories you put people in. It was that was ingenious as well.
Time stealers, time killers, time setters, and time changers.
Yes, yes. And there are people who steal your time. And and it made me kind of look at it. Who's wasting my time?
Right.
Because it is a commodity that you just don't get back, because once it's gone, every second, every moment, every hour counts. And if I spend, this is a productive hour I'm spending with you. It is helping someone, helping us, and helping get your book noticed, and hopefully in a way that most people would kind of ignore, especially men. And that's why I'm glad I'm on here today, because you could very well have a woman here and talk about this. It's still been a woman's contained situation, but I'm here to tell men that this is good. But time is so valuable to us. And when you wrote that, I'm looking at it saying, it made me evaluate my time every day and who's stealing it.
Right.
Now, what phone call am I taking that I should ignore? And it just, if you're not helping me be productive, if you're not helping me get to where I need to go, then you're wasting my time.
Exactly. And I tell people dealing with relationships, regardless male or female, if you're with somebody and they're not headed in the same direction, you're not on the same page, their vision doesn't line up with your vision. You've invested so much time in that. Because one of the things that, the mistakes that we make, and I had to learn it myself because I had someone tell me that, Mary Jae, you married where you were, you didn't marry where you were going. And a lot of times we marry where we are today, in the present circumstances and situations that fit where we are today. But we have to think ahead, like, where are you going? Where are you headed? What is your vision? How do you see yourself 10 years from now, 5 years or 20 years? Do you have somebody that can pour into you and help you carry this thing that God has entrusted in your hand?
Right.
And we waste so much time with giving that away to people who are even not there. They can't even see the vision. Matter of fact, they don't even have one. So you either live out their vision, or you put your vision on the shelf and you get stuck. And so that changed the dynamics for me. Totally changed how I saw relationships, how I invested my time, how much time I allow, my space. And I tell people, when they make that analysis, you no longer settle, you don't stay stuck, and you realize that you're going somewhere.
Right.
So do you have somebody that when you arrive to that place that can really hold you down while you're there, be there with you, represent you well? So that's so important.
And I think you said something that's very, very important for us to grasp in this whole thing, and that is, if someone does not have a vision, more likely they can't support yours, and they don't understand vision. So they're just frivolously going through life, wasting time, and you're trying to support something that doesn't even exist because they don't even have a vision. And I don't think visions are the conflicts. If you have a vision and you meet someone with vision, I think it ought to merge. It ought to complement each other, and then not compete. And that's another waste of time.
Exactly.
You get someone that has vision, but it's competing with your vision. And we're going to spend 5 years competing and both of us get nowhere. Um, a waste of time. And that, just making sure that you don't give that kind of time. Like, I know I've given too much time away to stuff that didn't matter.
Right.
And to people who didn't deserve it,
Right.
in relationships, engaged in relationships and hoping for the best, or they're going to evolve. And it doesn't ever happen.
Right.
I tell people this all the time. When people show you, their intentions, their heart, and like Maya Angelou says, believe them. Don't make them prove it to them. Don't make them prove it to you. Believe it the first time. So, and then to pull back, get out of that, and put your time into something that's meaningful, that's productive.
Absolutely.
Good chapter.
Thank you. Manage your time. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we go on and on. Know your size, and you touched on that. That was deep for me. You saw that I talked about being in a store to purchase a wedding gift. I was in a store purchasing, and this really happened. I was purchasing a wedding gift for someone, going to their wedding shower, and I can hear some young ladies talking on the next aisle, engaging about their partners, sexual organ. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like they really like in having this conversation. Who does that? Where is that? When does that happen? And I remember looking, and they were really loud. And I looked, and it was two young girls talking about it. I would think that they weren't married, because there's no way that I would be discussing my partner, with some other woman or anybody. But it did something to me. It spoke something to me. I said, wow, and then when I got to the shower and I actually showed up at the shower and brought the gift, I saw all of this playing out. I saw where they had the younger girls just so engaging and having so much fun and celebrating and winning all the prizes. And then the older ladies just sat there,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No engagement, nothing fun about it, no personality,
right?
Any of that. And I said, and that's just how some of our households look, where our women, I'm going to use our women because I'm a woman, where our women would go to bed, with sweatshirts on, sweatpants and socks and all of this stuff, rollers and,
I call it birth control. It's a contraceptive.
It is. Exactly. Like, don't touch you, stay on your side.
Just stay away from me.
Yeah, anything that I can do to make myself so unattractive and unappealing because I'm not in the mood. I'm tired, or I'm on my cycle. I have a headache. All of the things that we do as women. And I saw these young girls in the party, and they were just, so in tune with themselves, so confident, and so, just living a life. And that's why, that reminded me of the word of the Lord when God says that the world, are so much wiser than the children of light. And I started thinking about that, Bishop, and I said, so many times, even when we're with our partners, or even before marriage, a lot of times we give more to that and give more into that and present ourselves ready for that. Then when we get married, it's like, what happened?
It's the bait and switch. Bait and switch. When I read this, that chapter, it also said that the single young woman is more expressive about things, and we're more embarrassed after we get married. It should be the opposite way, the other way, all the way around, because if you are married, that should be something you can openly discuss.
Right.
But we get married, and now it becomes a taboo situation.
Exactly.
When, before you got married, everything was like open table. And it's so backwards. And how do we get embarrassed about things that we should be very open about? And I think this what keeps, if we want to stay in this vein of sexuality, then I think it's where we lose the sexual potency in our relationships because we don't communicate about it. We don't talk about what fits us, what we like. And it's one of the things in my teaching about communication. That's one of the areas that you got to talk about. How would you ever know? And then your book is saying the same thing. And how would you ever know what your partner wants if y'all never discuss it?
Exactly.
So, and now you end up giving, watch this, you give somebody something that you gave someone else and they totally don't want that.
Right. That's right.
So, you know, he liked it, but I don't like it.
Right.
So, you know, you got to have these open discussions. We don't talk about money and we don't talk about sex. So consequently, we're on two different pages concerning money, and then we're on two different pages, and we're going through the motion thinking that, you know, it was a wonderful night. In actuality, it could have been a super night if y'all had a discussion. And you said this now, you know, I read this one intensely. You said the conversation should be happening even during, after, and before.
That's right.
Because it makes it, you know, honest and open. And if anybody should have that kind of conversation, it should be that married person.
Exactly.
So that's one that could be read. Matter of fact, I don't know if you have access to your book online.
Yeah, I do. I have it. Actually, they can go to MaryJaeEnterprise.com or Amazon. It's on both. It's at MaryJaeEnterprise.com. Let me pull it up for them so they can actually.
I'm ordering books today for you. I'm ordering for folk here. I'm gonna give them away as gifts.
Awesome, Bishop.
Yeah, because it's just that powerful. That's good stuff.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I believe that when we have healthy individuals, healthy inside out, and we have an open mind, sometimes we become so close-minded that we don't allow God to just pour in. You know, God is doing a new thing. We can't be stuck on the days of the old and the tradition and what worked, but we take the good stuff that has continued to move us forward. We keep that. Like I kept the value of what it means to be a woman of virtue, you know, what it means to be a woman of treasure. That was instilled in me from a little girl. I've kept the value of just knowing how to be a great homemaker, you know, but there's so much more than that, you know.
Right.
There's so much more than that.
It has to be a balance.
Right.
I think what we miss, especially, and I'm gonna speak from my racial content in our culture, we have been non-expressive in the home about many of these topics that you talk about. And what happens is that we get stuck on, you know, having worship at home and a lot of word taught at home. We do everything like it's in church, but it's got to be a balance, because if you're only doing one thing all the time, it makes life very boring. I need to know that there's a greater dimension to this relationship. And I met my wife, and she, we met, and she discovered I was a pastor. Of course, she went into church mode, and she wanted to just show me all the spiritual stuff. We're going to pray before every meal, and I said, okay, that's good, but I need you to know, I'm a regular guy as well. So I do some regular stuff, and so and so as time went on, she discovered me as a man.
Yes,
I wanted her to explore that part of me, because from our older generation, we never really we never tipped the scale.
Never.
We kind of just kept everything there. And it led to a marriage that was tolerable. You just tolerated it, and you buried it for the children, whatever, but you didn't find any balance. And that this book will help balance off, relationship, open up the doors to new possibilities of your relationships. Hey, man, we can talk about this. And as a race of people, I think we need to know this, because I think, especially African Americans, Black, or whatever we call ourselves, we've been very limited in this discussion. So,
Yeah. In the beginning of the book, as I did the preface, and I talked about maybe you grew up in a home that didn't show a lot of affection, that a lot of affection was not publicly displayed. Maybe you grew up in a home where there was a whole lot that was shown. I personally grew up in a home where there was not a lot of affection with each other as husband and wife, but there were affection was shown to the children, especially my daddy. My dad is a very affectionate man, his whole family, my whole family too. When we see each other, we kiss, we hug, just like when we do in church. When I walk up to my brothers, I hug my brother. But when I've never seen my mom and dad kiss, never. I'm 54 now, and I still have never seen it ever.
right.
And so some of those things that, as we begin to mature and we go on to be adults, we bring some of that stuff and we think, oh no, don't do that. You don't, but that's worked for them. That's not working in this arena here. And I think that's what we miss a lot of times,
Right. It didn't work for them. They just, they just made it do what it do.
They made it do. You're right.
So, I grew up also in the same, well, I grew up in a very affectionate home, in an affectionate family. And, my cousins and all of us, it's nothing for us to hug or kiss each other. We're men. I mean, we'll do that any moment because we kind of grew up with that whole thing. And I think it's good because my children have adopted that same thing. We never end a conversation without "I love you." We are close knitted, but if they did not see it, and I know so many people have not, it becomes a strain. It's like an unusual situation for them. So again, this is something you can learn to do, though, because it is a normal part of your living.
Right.
To be affectionate and to love each other publicly without being embarrassed. A man should be able to kiss his wife, without someone saying, ooh,
Right.
Okay. But we kind of shy away from that because we so worried about our personal persona or our public persona that we don't want people to know anything private about us.
Right.
So here it is. If I have something with you privately, it should never be a secret publicly.
That's right.
I should be able to show everybody this is the person that got all of my attention.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think that's what's missing, especially in our Christian arena, our church arenas. That's what's missing. And a lot of times that's why people look for other things. They look for attention in other places because it doesn't show up in the church. It doesn't show up in the home. And then they begin to seek things in different places and spaces. And so that's one thing that I love about you too. You and your beautiful wife. You make that public. I've seen the pictures where you holding her, she's sitting on your lap, or you guys are laughing or kissing or what have you. You make that public because that's the picture that people needs to see. And I think when they don't see that, it's almost as though that's a bad thing. That's inappropriate. That's like sex is some dirty thing, or intimacy is some dirty thing, or just romance is just for behind the closed doors. But I think it's healthy when you can display that because you're helping marriages, because people are always watching, right? They're always watching you. When you don't know they're watching. And so what are you marketing? What are you showing them? Yeah.
I think that's back to your first chapter. How do you, what are you showing people about yourself? And if you don't do it, here it goes again. You're possibly showing people that you don't have as strong a relationship that you announce, and it invites other elements in. And like, I don't know, my marriage prior to this one, we started off that way. When we were dating, we were just super intimate and super into each other. But once a child came aboard, Glenn Jr. Was born, I got in competition with Glenn for attention.
Mm.
All
I
attention went
talk
to
about
Glenn.
that in the book too.
Yeah. So, here I am fighting with my own baby for attention. Like I really need my wife back. I know he needs a mother, but I still need my wife. And then, it fizzles out. It fizzles
Right.
out. And, we need to understand and beware of what happens when you allow marriages to become mundane and boring. And you come home, you're just there like a piece of furniture in a house. You need to understand it points people in other directions. And so, our
Exactly.
job as in a marriage in this stage of my life is just to say, hey, you know what? You need affection is here. Come home and get it.
That's
You know?
right.
But
That's
that comes with learning and time.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does,
Yeah.
and I talk about that in the book, Bishop, especially because I got so tired of hearing and seeing marriages fall apart in the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
In the name of God. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, this definitely has to stop. And I see that all the time with couples, whether either the husband is too busy and he's doing too much and not giving the time and attention that is needed with his family, or either the lady, the woman is. And in most cases, I've seen more where the woman may be in a particular church and she's doing everything for the ministry, for the church, for the man of God. Her husband is not present. He's never there. He's probably in another church or none at all. And then when she goes home, she's tired, depleted. She's drained. She took care of the kids, but like there's no room left
No
for him.
balance.
No
So
balance at all.
I purposely make sure that most of the times you see people serving at church, they're married, husband and wife. So there's a balance. She understands her role. He understands, and no one's overtaxed. Because I need you to go home and not be ministry burdened to the place where you can't spend time with your spouse.
Right.
Because what happens is, if that husband is at home waiting on her to get home from ministry and working overtime in ministry, he's angry with the church and with me.
Exactly.
So no, I need you to go home,
Exactly.
spend time with him, minister to him, and don't go home talking about me. Don't tell him what I had on, what kind of cologne I was wearing, whatever. Don't mention none of that.
Bishop said,
just make it all about him.
Exactly.
So, because men, whether you know it or not, it is a little off topic, but men do need that private celebration because when we know you've been in the presence of other men all day, and we want to know what our value is to you.
That's right.
And here it is. When you get home, make that celebration about him, so he'll know. From you. I've been around all these guys all day, but here's my king, and that makes the world a difference for a guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I tell all women, especially, whatever your role is in leadership, whether it's in ministry or in the marketplace, whatever your role is, always know that there's a changing of guards. There's a changing of guards. You can't stay up here and think that's going to work there too. You can't do that. There has to be some balance there. And that's why, particularly myself, I can use myself as serving as a first assistant pastor for a prominent church, that I had to make sure that my I's were dotted and my T's were crossed. I really had to do extra, get up early because I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that I left undone, that there was nothing that I left unturned. And so it's extra work, so to whom much is given, much is required, but that means everything. Right. That means everything. That's all of it. Yeah.
And know when to change the guard. I married a woman who was in the military. She retired now, but she was a sergeant military, have, people underneath her that she gave orders to. So she would come home still in military mode. And I had to remind her, listen, I'm not the bishop at home and you're not the sergeant.
That's right.
So we got to kind of cohabitate here together without bringing our roles to the house.
Right.
Whatever you practice over there was, you dropped it at the door. And I leave my authority as bishop of this church. And we transform to being husband and wife here and making this teamwork. And that's a great, eye opener, because a lot of people, they carry their profession, whatever their title is, into every arena.
Yeah.
It doesn't always fit.
That's right.
I'm not here to pastor you or correct you or always teach you. And that's one conversation she had with me. So every time you're talking to me, you're teaching me something. I said, okay, back off, because I'm just a natural teacher. So some days she just wanted me to listen. And that's why I had to learn to do that.
That's good. That's really good. I had a friend of mine that went through some issues, got a divorce, and mom passed away, and he was pouring out, sharing all of that with me. And I missed it. I totally missed it, because he needed a friend to talk to. And I went into counseling mode. He didn't want me to counsel him, He wasn't looking for me to tell him that he needs to heal. You need to go through this process and heal. And I totally messed that relationship up. And I thought about it in hindsight. Wow, he just wanted someone to vent to, someone to talk to. But I was there being Pastor Mary Jae, and it really went south, But we have to know how to balance things with people. Like you said, you don't just pray and lay hands. That's not just what you do. And I find that so funny, because a lot of times I see that in arenas, even when I meet people, they try to go there, and this is not where we are right now. I'm not even trying to talk about this right now. And I'm talking about men and women. Because then you know who the person really is when they don't know what you do or who you are, And I just kind of sit back a lot of times and just listen. And as soon as they realize, oh, I didn't know you were, that's okay. But you're being you. Not to say that you just allowed and accept everything to come into your space, but you really know who a person is when you just sit quiet and just listen to them and not try to show who you are.
Right. Yeah. And find that balance again. I tell you, I shocked my wife to kind of made her understand. I looked up a concert to go to, and I said, hey, we're going to this concert. And she said, you go to concerts? Yeah, I love music. So yeah, we going to a concert. Bishop. She was thinking it was a gospel concert. No, it's not a gospel concert. So, but I think God has given us the right to explore avenues of enjoyment that are still godly. You don't have to be wild and crazy. But again, you don't want to be one-dimensional in any relationship. And learning how to listen and pay attention is so important. This book is I'm promoting this today, so I'm going to do it in church. Where I'm probably going to buy it and give it away in church, because I think there's some people that really need to get this. How much do you tolerate? This is a chapter I haven't gotten to yet, and I'm about to read this today, because I really need to. How much do I tolerate? And what to celebrate, man. These are great chapters. I'm more sure that we need to kind of really dive into as well. But I want to appreciate you again and say thank you for writing and being obedient to God and writing this book, because I know it's going to bless millions of people who read it.
Thank you so much, sir. I have something that I just want to play. I want to show this to the people, and don't go anywhere, Bishop. We'll be right back after this.
Okay.
How big is too big? You have to read the chapter to know exactly what it's all about. How big is too big? I don't want to give it away. It's so intriguing. It's so good. And I'm not just saying it because it's my book and it's me. You have to read it. How big is too big? Think about it. Think about it. You haven't thought about it. And if you only are equating it to sex, if you only are equating it to your size, you haven't even touched the surface. Yeah, absolutely.
Who was that? I'm like, she got a guest on here. It just shows us that you have different variations of Mary Jae.
Intriguing.
Intriguing, right? I'm like, who's this guest that she has here? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a powerful question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Bishop, for coming on. It has been wonderful just having you to share with you. I'm honored, sir. I am indeed honored that you took time out of your very busy schedule. You had me on pins and needles, but you made it. You made it.
Oh yeah, no. I made plans. I told everybody Monday's already locked up for this particular thing, and I'm honored that you would select me. First of all, to send me this book, and for it to be so powerful, and for me to be even a part of his history, to say write the book means a whole lot to me. So thank God just for including me in the whole process.
Yes, absolutely, sir. Wanted you to be a part of it. Knew you would bring a lot of value to it. Knew that you would come real because this is real talk, Mary Jae. It's not sugar coated, anything like that. And because you broke the broken man down, oh my God, that was so powerful. So I knew that there was nothing. There was there was no chapter that you would not be able to speak about in this book. I knew that. And I knew that when you saw it and you read those chapters that you were going to deal with them, and you were going to deal with them in a real way.
And I want to say this, that this is an easy read.
Yes.
It's not difficult to read. It's intriguing enough to keep your attention because you're like, okay, where's she going with this? And I love that. It's almost like a mystery novel. You know, it's like I'm waiting for the next piece to know what you're doing next. And I like that. I love that about this book.
Well, awesome, sir. I'm so glad to have you. Well, listen, I will have to have you back on the show because I will be releasing another book coming in the spring, and it's I'm Lonely and I Like It. So you'll have to see what that's all about.
Yeah, well, actually, that's a topic I'm dealing with in next year.
Really?
I'm not dealing with lonely, but I'm dealing with.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
Being alone, and it's good. It's okay. I know God said it's not good for man to be alone, but there are moments you need to be alone, and it's okay. It's good.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Wow. Oh, so you're teaching that now? Are you getting ready to teach that?
January.
I want to be a part of that. I want to let me know when I see your posts go up about it. I definitely
I'm doing something on social media, so you may have to come on with yours. We can collaborate. You know, that's what everybody's doing it in the secular world. Adidas is collaborating with Kanye West. We're gonna do a Yeezys broadcast. So yeah.
I would love that. I would love that because when I tell people, you know, that topic, I'm lonely and I like it. Actually, I met a lady on the plane when I was flying out to Center, Texas to go preach. And I told her that was my next book because I blessed her with this book. And she was like, what is that about? Like that kind of turned her off a bit. And when I told her, you know, it's just what you've been talking about the whole time on the plane about relationships and not understanding where you are in a place where you are and feeling like you've got to be connected to someone to be who you are. You can be who you are. It's in you. You know, you don't need to. A lot of times we think that when we get this person or when we get that person, no, you have to be a wife before you become a wife. You know, you have to be a husband before you become a husband. You don't just become that once you say I do, because the man that you were before you said that is the same man that you're going to be. Now, there's a learning and process and a growing and a grooming process once you've connected as one.
Well, you know, when God created Adam, there was a space of time.
That's right.
Where he was alone.
Mm-hmm.
God gave him anybody else.
That's right.
This alone space. And I think that we are so, you know, thirsty for company
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, man, we just accept anything
Anything.
into
Absolutely.
our circle, and which is when you get the wrong element in your life, is worse than being alone. So now I got somebody.
Oh, Bishop, you better say that again. You better
Right.
say that
So
again.
now I wish I could go back to being alone, because now what with you here, I'm in hell. So I was in heaven alone, and
Wow.
I'm in hell with you. So let me invite you back out so I can be alone and have my peace. And that's I think that we need to value that time. Jesus spent time alone. Anyone that had anything significant to do had their alone time. I have a time, and I'm overdue for it now. Where I just go away and be by myself. My wife understands it. She's not questioning, well, why you got to be away. I'm probably going to go to Chattanooga, up to the hills, and spend some time with them. What am I doing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just regrouping, refreshing, resetting, recalibrating. But I come back and be a better me, because I had that time to reassess myself and get myself back recharged. But if you don't have that a long time, what do you do, Mary Jae, when you with someone? You're inundated with what they need from you, what's going on in ministry and work and this and the other,
Yes.
but you don't give any attention to you.
That's right.
So I need to get myself together. So it's good. Even if you're single, it's okay.
That's right.
It's okay. Enjoy that time. Please hear this, single folk. Hear this from the bishop. It's all right to be single.
Yes.
You stay that way until you get the right person in your life, because you sure don't want to invite the wrong element in, and you're married to someone you're unequally yoked to. So that's, again, another issue altogether. We'll say that for the next time.
I'm looking forward to that
You see, this is going to be a hot topic right here. We will not run out of
content.
material for this, right? Yeah, it will go on and on and on. This probably would take 2 hours at least.
Yeah. That's going to be totally awesome. I'm looking so forward to that. So, sir, thank you so much again for coming on the show. I'm so blessed and honored to have you to be a part of the birthing of this book, Intrigue. And I knew that you would be dead on with all of the content and the conversation to bring about balance. It's about balance to it all. So thank you for being intrigued, and thank you for just taking the time out to read it.
Well, thank you again for having me, and I wish God's choices blessed upon all of your endeavors. And I know you're an anointed woman of God. I know you're getting ready to take it off to new heights and new horizons. So I'm excited about your future. It's about to be amazing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a part. I'm looking forward to it. You're going to see. You're going to be like, oh my God, this girl is doing something else. You'll see. It's coming for intrigue.
Yeah.
It's on a full circle. Yes, very intriguing.
I'm excited about it.
So am I. Thank you so much again, Bishop, for coming on the show.
Bless you. Thank you.
Bless you. Everybody, you tuned in to Real Talk with Mary Jae. Have a great day.